In this video, I'm going to show you how to paint these garden fresh beets in watercolor. This is the third in a series of fruit and vegetable projects that included oranges, carrots, and a lemon branch. And I'll have a link to these other projects in the video description. So let's get started on painting these fun and colorful summery beets. For those of you watching when this is being released, which is December 1st, you might be wondering, why am I sharing these summery beets with you? Well, I had supposedly lost some footage back when I was originally going to release this video, and I just found it. So I thought it was gone, but it's not. So here are these summery beets in December. Sorry for the weird non-topical subject matter, but if you're watching any other time of the year, then this probably isn't so strange. Anyway, here we go with these beets. So as with the other projects, I'm using a limited palette. I'm using Daniel Smith's introductory palette, which includes 3 warm and 3 cool primaries, along with a couple other select colors I added to my palette, including opera pink and burnt sienna. I'll have a link to that introductory set in the video description. I really love it because you can mix almost any color you need, just from these 6 pigments, so it's great if you're on a budget and you still want high quality paints to paint with. So I mixed a deep red with some of my red and blue to make a burgundy tone. And then I painted the green leaves using a mix of different greens from my palette. Some a little bit more of an appley color, some a little bit more of a earthy color. And I just kind of let them mix on the paper for the most part. This is a type of subject that you want to have some abstraction and texture with the leaves. So you can't really go wrong by adding extra color, extra little water water droplets. And just have fun with it. And while the green was still wet, I added a little bit more of that red, just so it kind of blended from the stems into the leaves, so it wasn't just so, too many hard lines separating it, making it look too, too rigid. I wanted it to have more of a loose, modern look, so that's why I did the leaves that way. Now for painting the shiny beets, I first painted the entire beet with the water, tinted water, so I could see where the water went, see where the wet paper is. And then I'm just adding a light layer of a pinkish color. You can see that I kind of left a highlight there on the upper left area of the beet, so it helps convey this circular shape or roundish shape. And just pay attention to where your light source is to be consistent. But anyway, I painted everything wet and then just left a bit of highlight there, letting the paint go wet into wet with a soft edge. And you might need to blot out the area if the paint starts to creep in a bit, like I'm doing here. I'm just rinsing, blotting, and lifting that highlight area. Now while it's still wet, I'm gonna get a slightly more saturated layer of red color there on my brush, and I'm going a little bit farther out from that highlight just to help create that subtle transition from the lightest to the pink and then to the darker area of the beet. And then along the side where it meets that other beet, since it's behind that one, I'm going to add a more intense shadow. So then you really have that gradation from the lightest highlight to the darkest shadow, and it'll really help create that spherical look, that 3-dimensional look to the shape of the beet. For this deeper color, I added a bit of Perylene Violet, which is sort of a neutral purplish reddish color that works perfectly for this beet. And then it's just slightly more pigment to water ratio to make sure that it's dark enough. And I'm just using the tip of my brush here to draw on these little roots and tendrils. And then since it is a bit thicker and it doesn't spread out like the more transparent watery paint, I use the tip of my brush just to kind of push it around a little bit into that more highlight area to help create that more smooth transition of color. Getting down into these tinier roots, I also switched to my smaller brush. Once that first beet was completely dry, I painted the second beet. Again, just wetting the entire area, saving a highlight by not adding any paint to it at all, and just successively adding deeper, more concentrated color away from the highlight to create that round shape. By the way, if you'd like to print and trace this design along with all the other projects in this series, just click the link in the description and I will email you a link to access them for free. I'm continuously adding to this line art library and you'll have access to all of them. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe to see more watercolor tutorials. Thank you again for joining me, and I'll see you next time.